Welcome to Above Replacement Radio. I am your host, Chris Gianta. You know what Christy Mathewson wasn't worried about? SIERA. When you're thinking about Pedro Siriaco, I mean, the only one that can compete is maybe Hannes Wagner's 1908 season. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran.
Like, if we just clip together every time we've talked about him on other people's profiles, we've done a Mickey Cochran episode.
I can't get past Rabbit Marinville. It's not necessarily Hall of Fame. It's not necessarily above average, but we can guarantee you we are better than just the standard replacement level college sophomore.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio, where we're talking baseball kind of whenever. I'm your host, Chris Gianta. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I'm doing very well today. We got a interesting show today. We have a very controversial take that came up in my mind. And among some other things, we got some very cool All-Star Game news, like 45 minutes ago, maybe an hour ago, which I'm very happy about. And I'm excited to get into everything today.
Yeah. You labeled the random thought as an intrusive thought.
Yes.
Which I think that's a good description. I like it. I think it's a good topic of discussion for sure. Even if it's random, I think it's fun.
It's random, and it's also going to be like, people are going to take it out of context for sure.
Yes.
But we'll address what we actually mean by it when we get there.
Right.
So that's a tease. Stay tuned.
Yes. Okay. So first of all, we will start off by talking about a sliding team, a team that is not meeting expectations in 2022 so far, and that's been emphasized in the last about 3 weeks. I would say they've lost 13 of their last 17. Before that, they were kind of on track of what they were supposed to do. They were 10 games above 500, but now they're 41-40 after going 4-9 in their last, 4-13 in their last 17. The San Francisco Giants have been sliding. It doesn't really matter who they've been facing. I know they got swept by the White Sox. They lost a series to the Diamondbacks. They just haven't been the same this year, and they've been particularly bad over the past 3 weeks.
Yeah, this has been a very inconsistent team throughout the year. I know the offense, and I'm sure you have some numbers on this, but the offense has been particularly at fault, at least as of very recently. I saw a stat on MLB Network about how they'd scored like some just crazy small amount of runs during a losing streak or whatever. But yeah, I mean, this is not the first slide that the team has had all year. They had one probably like a month ago or so. Maybe it was in like late May. But yeah, if they're 41-40, and it's been very inconsistent. I mean, there's really no other way of looking at it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of the opposite of what they were doing last year, where like they were like the most consistent, and the Dodgers could win like 12 out of 13, and the Giants were just staying up in that up at the top of the NL West in a very random way too, by the way. No one expected them to be there. So obviously they had higher expectations this year. They're not meeting them. But yeah, I guess to break it down statistically, since the start of this slide, which is June 19th, the Giants have an 89 weighted runs created plus, which ranks 25th in all of baseball in the span. They are 28th in position player FWAR. They have the worst defensive runs above average. I highlighted the Giants defense as a whole as a slightly alarming couple episodes ago. They've transformed from last year being a top 5 defense to being now one of the 2 worst defenses in all of baseball, which it's almost inexplicable. You don't really know. They didn't lose anybody on the defensive side. Everyone's just gotten worse, which is odd. And as a result of this, the team has a 4.67 ERA and a 3.73 FIP in this 17 game span.
It's very hard to explain. Fronts. It's just so hard to explain. Like, you put out the same team, and I feel like this is almost kind of just like what most of the baseball world expected of them last year. And there were some people that said they were going to hover 500 this year, coming off of a 107 win season. But yeah, I mean, like just the way that it's happened has been very concerning. Everyone is just kind of underperforming except for Jock Peterson, who even still has a 0.6 B WAR, is 12th on the team. Like Jock Peterson has been carrying the whole offense with a 144 OPS plus. He's probably going to be a starting outfielder for the National League in the All-Star game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like just going through some names like Brandon Belt, who was my Giants player to watch and had been one of the best sluggers in the league since middle of 2020. He's currently sitting at a 666 OPS. It's very satanic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 89
Also,
OPS plus.
Also in his going, in his last or in the Giants' last 17 games, he's hitting 100 with a 300 OPS. So he's particularly been bad in the stretch.
Exactly 100 with a 300 OPS.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Brandon Crawford just came off the IL, but he has a 669 OPS. So he's, just barely better. Evan Longoria was doing all right, but he's on the IL. They have been hurt by injuries. Kurt Casale's hurt. Tyro Estrada is now hurt. He was doing okay for them. But there's also just been a lot of underperformance, right? I mean, Darren Ruff and 97. It's weird to talk about Darren Ruff as an underperformer because he came out of nowhere basically 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But he is a sub 700 OPS. Joey Bart has a 603 OPS when a lot of people were hoping maybe he would break out. Lamont Wade Jr., another guy who came out of nowhere last year, is only at a 683 OPS plus or OPS. Yeah, 683 OPS plus. He is a 3000 OPS. Yeah, very disappointing. Mike Yastrzemski has been okay on the offensive side. Defensively, I know it's been a different story. Tommy La Stella also, he's not a guy where you look at and think of PS, but he's only hitting 241. So naturally, he's going to have a 656 OPS to go with it.
Yeah. So yeah, offense has been a concern, and I think everyone knew they overperformed last year, but I don't think people, the general perspectives of baseball was thinking, we kind of underestimated them last year. So let's not underestimate them again. They're probably going to be a playoff team this year. And I don't think anyone was thinking that Brandon Crawford was gonna, be a guy that was 10% below league average offensively, or
no. Maybe you're not thinking he's a guy that finishes fourth in the MVP voting, but
yeah.
But yeah, I don't think you're thinking that either.
Yeah, I don't. It's just a very drastic change from Brandon Crawford, also Brandon Belt. Has had a pretty drastic change this year. And Darren Ruff has been significantly worse offensively.
There's such an easy pun you can make there that I think
it's been pretty rough for him this year.
I just pulled up a hell of a stat.
I can't wait.
So I mentioned this guy earlier, but there have been 3 seasons in baseball history since 1871 with a 140 OPS plus or higher, at least 250 plate appearances, and a wins above replacement below 1.0. They are Jim Holdsworth in 1874 for the Philadelphia, is it the Phillies? What was the Philadelphia team in 1874? The Philadelphia Whites. That was probably a racially motivated name.
Yeah.
There was a much more recent name in Adam Dunn, which I guess it only makes sense that he's on there in 2009, and then Jock Peterson in 2022.
Gotta love that.
It probably won't stand, but because it's hard to imagine he'd actually accumulate a 144 OPS plus and sub 1 WAR this year. But as it stands right now, a very weird season.
Yeah, it is weird because also I think his F-WAR is like a good amount different, if I remember correctly.
Be, yeah.
I'm looking at the data right now.
You're
one of those
consulting the data sheet.
investigative shows. 1.4 F4, so he has more than double the
Yeah.
F4.
Yeah, I mean, it's still not great for a 144 OPS plus, but
Yeah,
it's acceptable.
Still underperforming that, but we know Jock Peterson's like defense isn't his strength, but I don't think it pulls him back that much on the Baseball Reference wins above
I
replacement
feel like I should
scale.
whatever. I'll hold off on tweeting that stat. Maybe I'll wait for him to reach 250 plate appearances because he's at 244 right now.
Yeah,
and I mean he's at 144, so I don't think. By the way, Adam Dunn that year, a 928 OPS, negative 0.4 B WAR. It was very funny.
A 9 what OPS?
28.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. 380, 398 OBP, 529 slugging, 267 average. It's not like he was hitting like sub 200.
Yeah.
He had 177 strikeouts, 116 walks, a D WAR of minus 5.2.
Yeah, I think
mean,
it's
yeah.
like I think it is. I think I've looked probably back in pandemic. I was like curious of like what the worst defensive seasons were, and yeah, I think that might have been it.
It was
negative 5 D WAR.
I mean, nothing like a guy playing in the National League who is the most DH person of all time.
Yeah.
Of course, before 2022.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
just not in 2020.
Yeah, going back to Jock Peterson, he has I looked at his savant. He has negative 4 outs above average, which is it's not good, but it's not something that should pull his wins above replacement back like crazy.
It's also like, isn't it half UZR and half like outs above average now? Because I know that the defensive component isn't entirely OAA.
For like range and like catching balls, it's outs above average, and then for the arm use, it's UZR.
That's so stupid. UZR is literally ultimate zone rating. Why are they reusing range for something else?
Yeah, well, I don't know.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I think UZR has some type of arm component, which is good.
It makes sense that OAA might not.
Yeah, outs above average doesn't.
Yeah,
but I think for infield it might. If I read correctly,
that makes more sense because outfield assists are the more highlighted plays, but like infielders use their arms a lot more.
Yeah, and also it can make or break an out much.
Because I remember there were people that were like, O'Neal Cruz should be moved to the outfield because just imagine that arm from center field. It's like, no, actually, imagine it at shortstop where he's going to make 3 times the amount of throws.
Yeah, imagine him 110 feet from first base. He's got to get this bang bang play. He's going to get it every time. Yeah.
Versus like maybe one close play every game in the outfield.
Yeah, true.
Like, sure, the highlight plays would be there, but we're looking quantity over quality here.
And then he's just a liability with range in the outfield. Like,
exactly,
he doesn't play it.
Yeah, it's not like we can expect him to be able to, track down. I mean, I guess we could maybe see him track down a ball because he's very fast, but the root efficiency probably not going to be there.
Yeah, but going back to the Giants, their pitching hasn't even been bad, especially peripherally. They have their pitching staff as a whole has a 3.43 FIP. Going down the line, starting pitching wise, Logan Webb at a 3.09 FIP. He's actually got a 2.98 ERA too. He's doing what he's been expected to do. Carlos Rodon, he has a 2.23 FIP. I think that might lead the National League. I forget if that does. I'm just going to click on his page real quick to make sure. And yeah, it does lead the National League. So he's been spectacular addition for the Giants. I think it makes up for them not getting Kevin Gossman back. Then Alex Wood, 3.43 FIP. Alex Cobb, he's had a tragic season. He's at a 3.07 FIP. It's just that the defense is much different than it was last year, and so in terms of what you can mark the Giants changes to, like from a 107 win team to a team that's hovering 500 right now, it's purely hitting and defense. The pitching has kind of stayed the same. I should see what their FIP was last year. Because
yes, the FIP last year was probably fine.
It was
probably one of the better ones.
I would bet it was like worse than it is this year. It was 3.55. So yeah, it was a little worse. Probably, the baseballs are a little different this year, so I guess that's part of it. But
XFIP definitely different this year.
Yeah. So but I guess the point is the Giants peripherally are pitching about the same as they were last year, but it's garnering a much different ERA. Last year, their team ERA was 3.24. This year, it's over 4. And I think eyes are pointing towards the defense. They've just, as of my slightly alarming last year, they were second worst. They had the second worst outs above average. And also in the span where they're losing 13 out of 17, their team defensive runs above average is flat out the worst.
Yes.
And I think, you said Brandon Crawford was on the IL.
He just came off, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess that has a little bit to do with it. He's he's been one of the better defensive shortstops for a while, but even he was having a rough season up to that IL stint, which you could maybe point to the injury for that. But still overall the team has just been rough defensively and worse offensively in general. Any more thoughts on the Giants?
I mean, we had this conversation after they got eliminated last year in the NLDS, but
Hello.
do we want to say that you can in fact fluke a 107 win season? Because I haven't yet, but I'd say it has to take by this year, because the Giants have a history of having great seasons and then not making the playoffs. 2011, 13, and 15, all 3 of those years they missed the playoffs. But I don't know. I think we're very close to saying it is in fact possible to fluke a 107 win season.
Yeah, I think it depends on what degree. I don't think you can.
It's so weird.
I don't think you can go from a 107 win season to a 65 win season, because Giants are going to do that. But yeah, you can.
I mean, it's not impossible.
But yeah, I mean, look at the 2018 Red Sox. They went 108 wins to 84 wins.
That's true.
Same thing sort of happening right now.
I mean, the Giants are on pace for slightly less, but
yeah.
I mean, who says? But what if they have a big July slide or an August slide or a September slide, and they end up with 70-something wins, 74 wins?
Yeah, then
what?
I can't put it past them. What we saw with the Giants last year was a lot of semi-career years from guys who shouldn't have been having career years, or based on age, should not have been having career years. Example number 1 is Brandon Crawford. Then you have Brandon Belt.
Yeah.
And there were some guys overperforming on the pitching staff, Anthony DeSclafani having a low 3 ERA.
Alex Wood as well.
Yeah,
and that's the volume of guys that were doing it is the reason we said it couldn't have been a fluke. There's no way all of them happened to have been doing it at the same time. They had to have been doing something, not cheating, but they had to have been, they had something figured out in there.
Yeah, and there were a lot of stories on the Giants coaching staff. They had a very young, very smart coaching staff that was just looking at things very differently, and we could have pointed to that. And not it's likely that they haven't gotten worse, but it's just
I remember
yeah, go ahead.
Kevin Gausman, went to the Blue Jays and in an interview said the goal for the pitching staff is to have a K minus walk rate of 19 because every team that has a K minus walk rate of 19 makes the playoffs. And I checked, and out of every team since like 2017 that's had that, the only one that didn't make the playoffs was the 2019 Cleveland Indians, who won 93 games.
Yeah.
And like, I'm sure I'd be willing to bet that's San Francisco, something that was pressed there and something that was learned in Houston. I would say his experience in San Francisco, at the very least, influenced that philosophy of his.
Yeah. That would make a lot of sense. I mean, I think when I talked about the Giants pitching staff last year, I think from 2020 to 2021, their ground ball rate went from like 28th to 3rd, and they just switched their pitching philosophy up completely. And Kevin Gausman was a part of that, and as a result,
he was doing a splitter.
Yeah, like last year, he finished 6th in the Cy Young,
somewhere around there.
Yeah. So yeah, and he turned his career around in San Francisco. He wouldn't have gotten $110 million if not for San Francisco. So yeah, like it made, so yeah, there were a lot of guys having their careers being turned around last year and maybe a year before that in San Francisco. So it made sense to see that, oh, maybe this could be sustainable. I'm not, they've had a bad stretch. I think they can get back on track, but 107 wins, it was clear that was an overperformance last year. All right.
Let's talk about the wholesome news of today.
Yeah.
I think we should save the big topic for last.
Okay, that sounds good. So yeah, wholesome news. I actually hadn't seen this. Do you want to introduce it?
Yeah, so I think it was Ken Rosenthal wrote the other day that there was a clause in the new CBA that could allow the commissioner to pick one all-star from each league based on like circumstances, like essentially if it's a legend going out that probably wouldn't make it otherwise. And he's going to enforce that this year with Albert Pujols and Miguel Cabrera making the all-star teams. I think this is a cool thing. I think as long as it's not like taking away a roster spot from someone else, I think it's very cool, especially with Cabrera, because I don't think there's any reason to believe he's not going to be in the league next year. Pujols is definitely going out, which is so weird because there's been very little to no coverage on Albert Pujols' retirement tour.
Yeah. Oddly enough.
Like he's at this point, he's probably not going to get to 700 home runs, and that's whatever. But yeah, there's been this is a guy who's, just the fact that he's close to 700 home runs, that's only been done by 3 individuals.
Oh yeah. 700 home runs. Yeah, it's been 3 guys.
So I don't understand the whole why it hasn't been getting as much attention. Maybe it's just because he's playing a platoon role. Like, I don't know, but it is very strange.
Yeah, it's odd. Like, I don't know. He's an all-time great, and I think maybe just because he hasn't been good in recent years
and hasn't been in the playoffs.
Yeah, and like he hasn't been good in a while, so like
it's probably a factor of things. And not only that, but like he's never been the reason to go see a team. Like when you were going to watch the Angels from like 2015 to 21, you're not there to watch Albert Pujols. We know why you're there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, come on.
The
Dodgers last year, same thing, and even to a degree the Cardinals this year.
Yeah. It's like I think that has a factor because when I think of like great retirement tours that had a lot of media coverage, it's like Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera, David Ortiz also.
Those are the 3.
But like yeah, like Jeter, at least I think 2013 he was injured, but 2012 he was an all-star. You know, he had a 300 batting average. Mariano Rivera till his last appearance was he was always great. And you know, David Ortiz during the 2016 season was maybe having his best offensive year ever.
Yeah.
So like,
but David Ortiz made the All-Star team because he was the best DH.
yes.
This is very funny. Like Derek Jeter got voted in, and I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
Mariano Rivera probably could have made it regardless. But yeah, I mean, obviously he was handpicked because he's a pitcher.
Yeah.
And Pujols doesn't really get that option. Like he hasn't been good enough to be voted in. And also like voting against him means voting against like Bryce Harper.
Yeah.
It's like, well, obviously, because like, you know, like who are you really robbing if you're voting for David Ortiz over someone else in 2016? At the same time, who were you really robbing if you were voting for Derek Jeter in 2014? Like Alexi Ramirez was the guy who replaced him. Like I think we could survive without that.
Yeah, like going back to the thing of why this hasn't been covered yet. I think just he hasn't been good in a while. He hasn't given the fans a lot of like moments in a long time. Even his milestones, like like his latest milestone was like 2,000 RBIs, which happened in like 2019, and then before that it was 600 homers, which happened in what 2018, 2017.
Yeah,
you know, it's
2018. 3,000 hits was also 2018, I believe.
Yeah, so like maybe it's a thing.
I guess his most recent milestone was passing Mays on the all-time list.
Yeah, but like he hasn't been,
which I think that happened in 2020. So it's like, you know, there was no one there.
Yeah, he hasn't been at the forefront of the baseball, like of baseball talking points in a long time. So maybe that's why he hasn't gotten as much media coverage.
Which is a shame. I wish it didn't have to be like that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
and also he has an 80 OPS plus this year.
Yeah, I mean, he like the three guys we talked about, Rivera, Jeter, and Ortiz. Pujols has had a better career than all of them. So like you know, it would be cool if he was able to get some more media coverage. But frozen. Hello.
Yeah. By the way, Albert Pujols has not made the All-Star game since 2015. I mean, his baseball reference page has become so sad. Like when you look at the bottom half of it.
Yeah, it's not great.
But you know what? I'm glad that there will be one little AS mark at the very bottom.
Yeah, exactly. Like yeah, and Pujols definitely, he should be there. It's his last year. Cabrera is interesting because his contract goes through what, 23.
But I've also seen people saying, yes, it goes through 23, so he will have another chance. But I've also heard people saying he should just be the Tigers representative anyway, which I kind of disagree with. He's hitting 300 with a 718 OPS. That's good for a 108 OPS plus. He has a 403 BABIP right now.
Yeah, he does.
Which is very funny.
Yeah, it is.
But I mean, if the Tigers were only going to have one representative, it should be Tarek Skubal. I know that his ERA is a full run higher than his FIP, and they're not going to be like, oh, well, this guy's a 4 whatever ERA. But I'm glad Cabrera's there. Like, why not? If Pujols is going to be there, why not just invite Miggy as well?
Yeah, true.
I guess I guess if the commissioner is going to do this once every year, like I feel like it should just be an optional thing. I don't think he has to do it once every year, but I feel like if he obligatory put Cabrera in because he put Pujols in, no, I don't care. I mean, that's fine. Whatever.
Yeah, I'm not losing any sleep over it.
Yeah. I just hope, like I said, that it's not taking a roster spot away and they're just doing like 27-man rosters because of it or something.
Right. Like, yeah, I hope it's just an addition and not like some subtraction of someone who was definitely going to deserve their shine. Yeah. yeah, Pujols, I'm definitely very, very glad that they added him in there because he deserves that, last all-star moment. He'll probably get an at bat sometime in the late innings. Get a
It'll be
standing.
it'll be at his former home at Dodger Stadium.
Yes, what he's known for.
I wonder if the Tigers and Marlins are playing each other next year or this year. They have to be playing either this year or next year, right?
Well, I believe the
AL
schedule
Central.
changes next year where every team faces every team.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I heard that on a Fox broadcast that the CBA. Maybe we could pause this, but
Like every team, like as in every team faces every team.
yeah, that's what I heard on Fox.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Does that mean like less divisional opponents? Because they were talking about shortening the season too. Like I don't know. I don't think that ever became a thing.
They said,
how is that not more of a storyline if that's true?
They said that teams are going to face their divisional opponents 14 times now.
That's no way.
How MLB's New Balance schedule, not New Balance. MLB.com balance schedule to bring more interleague games. MLB.com March 11, 2022 from Mark Feinsand, who spoke in my sports writing class. Love the guy. Teams will face their 4 division opponents 14 times each season, 7 home and 7 away for a total of 56 games. They will also face the other 10 teams in their league 6 times apiece, playing a 3-game set at each ballpark.
So no 4-game series then.
Yeah, that sucks.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Rather than 16 interleague games, teams will have 46 such games on the schedule, 4 against their geographical rival and 3 against the other 14 teams, alternating ballparks annually.
What?
Yeah.
What? That is so weird.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
so you're telling me each team is gonna play 4-game series a year? Or 5? 5 4-game series a year, 4 versus the divisional opponents and 1 versus the
geographical
rival, which is very subjective to many teams.
Yeah. Like, it's the Blue Jays and the Phillies.
Yeah,
gotta watch out for them.
Yeah.
They can't keep that 1993 World Series rivalry is really brewing.
The Mariners Rockies once again fighting for who is the better team that hasn't won a World Series. That's so weird. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I don't know.
It starts next year?
Yeah, it starts next year. I felt weird about it when I heard about it because I don't know, like when the Red Sox go to Wrigley, it's kind of like a special thing. It's like, oh wow, they're going to Wrigley. It's what happens 1 out of every 6 years now. But now it's going to happen every other year. But I don't know. I guess it's good if you're like a family want to travel to see your favorite team.
That is fair. It's definitely good for devoted fans of one particular team that wants to knock off like all 30 ballparks.
Yeah.
Hypothetically, you could do it in 2 years now while only seeing one team.
But yeah, so if
that's gonna make West Coast and East Coast trips much more brutal for the East and West teams.
Yeah, for sure.
Like not only, like if you're the Yankees, not only do you have to go to Seattle, Anaheim, and Oakland every year, but you also have to go to Arizona every other year, LA, San Diego, like San Francisco. That's gonna make travel a lot worse.
Yeah, this story kind of got buried among all the other.
That is a stuff. Much bigger story than most that got like pushed.
Yeah, and like if there's gonna be 46 interleague games a year, and I guess this is a whole different story, but like if there's 46 interleague games a year, I don't see the point in, and if also there's the same rules in each league, I don't see the point in having like an AL and an NL MVP.
That
if
is a
they're all
great point.
if they're all facing each other.
That's a fair point, but also I feel like just for, you know what, I could see the league trying to push to take that out for bonus purposes.
Yeah, owners especially.
Like I would like to keep it just for more reasons to celebrate, more accomplishments, and more talking points, and like I don't know. I think I would rather keep it because then you probably have to do the same with Cy Young, Rookie of the Year.
Oh yeah, and they just implemented that Rookie of the Year thing for service
Yeah.
time.
Yep.
So like
Yeah. I mean, I feel like if you take out MVP, you have to take out Cy Young and Rookie of the Year.
yeah, but so for the players' purposes, I would like to keep that in because it helps them out.
Mhm.
However, like there's a solid argument where if you're playing a quarter of your games against the other league, maybe there's less of a point because I mean, like you think about NFL, NBA, NHL, they don't have that system in place.
Yeah.
I
don't like that.
Because they fit.
Like maybe
they have more
my opinion will
interleague
change
matchups.
next year, but wow.
Yeah.
That's gonna make the weird matchups that we've been talking about on probable, like the matchups of the week way less special. It's like, oh, dude, no way, we got Twins Diamondbacks this week. Like, it's not gonna matter now.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. Well, that does mean that either way, the Tigers would have played the Marlins next year. I hope they play in Miami so Miguel Cabrera could go back there one last time. Go back to the old Marlin. Go back to Marlins Park, where he won the World Series.
Yeah, they should just play.
And the home run sculpture was going crazy.
Yeah, they should just play at the Dolphin Stadium again.
I agree. the new one.
Yeah, just in that. That always tickled me when I watched a football game and I saw the infield dirt. I don't think they have any of that anymore.
No, because the last survivor was Oakland, but then they moved to Vegas.
Yeah, that was always very funny to me. Well, I don't know. We got to that from Pujols and Cabrera getting into the All-Star game, but I don't know, that was a pretty fun topic to address.
I mean, we ended up going off on a very long tangent, but either way, I mean, I don't think there's much to say other than this is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a wholesome moment. It's definitely like Albert Pujols definitely deserves this. Like, Jeter got voted in. Jeter got voted in because it was going to be his last All-Star game, not because of the probably like 650 OPS he was sporting. So Albert Pujols should get this moment too, and Chipper Jones got this moment too in 2012. I don't think he was having a crazy good year. Albert Pujols.
Cal Ripken Jr. got it in 01.
Yeah, Albert Pujols is that caliber of player. I think he probably has more wins above replacement than all the guys we just mentioned.
Oh, absolutely.
At least on the Baseball Reference scale. I don't know about Fangraphs. But yeah. So good for those guys. Do we want to get into your intrusive thought?
Yeah, I think we just do that and then pitchers to highlight or players to highlight.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I saw a tweet yesterday that I sent to you, Chris, because I found it very ironic. It was talking about how in the last 2 years of his major league career, Sandy Koufax threw like 600 innings and had 54 complete games, and which was just amazing, and won Cy Young awards, MVP awards, World Series, and whatever. And he had 54 complete games in those 2 years, and the complete game leader this year is Sandy Alcantara with just 2. And I don't know if this is the point, but it very much sounded like he was using Sandy Koufax as an example of how pitchers just aren't built the same way today. And if you know baseball history and you know Sandy Koufax, you know how horrifically ironic this is.
Yes. He retired at 30.
Yeah, it was his last 2 years. Surely he must have been doing this at the ages of like 35 and 36.
Yeah.
But no, and why did he retire at 30? We all know why. It was because his arm basically fell off from throwing so much.
Yeah, like he at his retirement speech, he was like, "I'm doing this for my long-term health."
Yeah.
I don't want
And
my
guess
arm.
what?
I want to use my left arm in life.
And guess what? Sandy Koufax is, knock on wood, still walking this earth at the age of 86.
with his left arm.
With his left
function.
arm. He used it to clap for Walker Buehler at the 2018 World Series.
Yeah, for sure. But
Anyway,
do you wanna?
Yeah, so this got me into this intrusive thought. Sandy Alcantara is the closest thing to a workhorse in today's game. He has 123 innings pitched, and no one else has more than, I think, 111, which is Aaron Nola. He has thrown, I think, like each of his last like 8 outings or something have been 7 innings pitched or more, which is literally absurd. Yeah, from his last 11 starts have been 7 innings pitched, 8 innings pitched, 9 innings pitched, 8 innings pitched, 7, 9, 7 2/3, 8, 7, 9, 8, which is unheard of in today's game. He's currently has a 1.82 ERA, a 2.85 FIP. He's been the NL Cy Young front runner for a while now. And I had this thought that I just want to say, this is not a debate of if we're at this point right now. This is a debate of if we could eventually come to a point where we're having this conversation. If Sandy Alcantara does this level of dominance where he is pitching significantly more innings pitched than anyone else and is also, one of the better pitchers in the league with run prevention and with control prevention for the next like 15 years, is he the best pitcher named Sandy of all time?
Well, yeah, it's this was a funny question. I was
because like he will never have a peak as good as Sandy Koufax, but Sandy Koufax peak lasted, I'd say, 6 years?
Yeah, 61 to 66.
Yeah.
And especially 63 to 66.
He will never have a peak like that, where, I mean, Sandy Koufax at that point had a 216 FIP and what was his ERA plus? 156 in a time where, he was striking out more batters than anybody. He was giving up less hits than everybody. He won 3 Cy Youngs and an MVP, and also a couple World Series in there as well, I believe.
Yeah.
And 2 World Series MVPs.
Yeah.
So Sandy Alcantara will never have a peak that good. If he does, that'd be insane. But I don't think there's reason to have it happen. But for longevity purposes, could we be having this discussion at some point?
Yeah, and one stat I will say before I get into this is Alcantara leads the MLB with 7.3 innings pitched per game started. 7.3, next best has 6.6.
Was that Aaron Nola?
It's actually Joe Musgrove. And then Aaron Nola's right behind him at 6.5. But yeah, it's very interesting point because as you mentioned, he's not going to have that same peak. Sandy Koufax's peak it's one of the best of all time. It's arguable between like his 4-year peak, Pedro's, and like Randy Johnson's, and maybe Greg Maddox's as well as like best peak of all time. However, Sandy Alcantara, I think he has long capability of long-term success. He throws pretty hard, and usually guys who throw harder are going to have more longevity because they're going to throw harder for longer. And if he keeps it up for a 10-15 year pace, where he's right now he's at a sub 2 ERA. He's been consistently a low 3 ERA guy. And he has a 2.54 expected ERA. But yeah, if he keeps up a sub 2 ERA and a low 2s, sure, I think he could keep that up because he's getting 6 wins above replacement a year or so. If he does that for 10 years, that's 60. That's more than Sandy Koufax.
Also, some encouragement for long-term stability is that, you talked about how he throws hard. He consistently is in the hundreds. His most used pitch is not even his four-seam fastball. It's his changeup.
Yeah.
So, that's something that, you don't need to rely on velocity. By the way, his changeup this year has a 144 batting average against and 184 slugging. So that's been magnificent. A -6 launch angle against, 27.3% put out rate. That is absurd.
Yeah. It's I think it's just a case of like, I mean, I guess the question is not like whether he will sustain it or not. So maybe I won't get into that. But I mean, in terms of sustainable, like what type of years are you expecting from Sandy Alcantara in this theory?
I think it's more based on what he's doing in comparison to the league. Like, I think the biggest storyline with him this season is that, he has 123 and a third innings pitched. That's well above anybody else right now. Like, he is kind of in a league of his own when it comes to longevity within specific games. Because, the point of the tweet was Sandy Koufax had 54 complete games over 2 years. Sandy Alcantara has 2, which is the most this year. But, it goes beyond just 2 complete games. It's the fact that he has been a certified workhorse more than anybody else this year. And it's the hypothetical, what if he stays doing that for a 15-year period?
Yeah. Like, so yeah, he's on pace for 240 innings or something like that right now.
Mm-hmm. He threw 205 last year, which is one of the top in the league.
Yeah, and last year, like in the American League, no one touched 200 innings pitched. I know in the National League there were
Corbin Burns won the Cy Young with 165.
Yeah. Yeah, excuse me. So, it's trending where 240 innings, that's not something we're gonna look for, or not something we're gonna expect out of anybody, except for maybe Sandy Alcantara. We're like, he doesn't have to win the. If you have innings production where you have like 30 more innings than the next best guy, you don't need to be the ERA leader to win the Cy Young. You don't need to be the FIP leader to get Cy Young, because having that level of workload can be more valuable and more impressive. Not saying that he can have like a 3.7 ERA and win Cy Young because of his workload. However, like, if there's a difference in ERA of like 0.2, he can go out, he can win that Cy Young because of his workload. And
I mean, like,
if it goes for 10 years, where he's able to, be consistently like the leader in innings pitched, and not run into any injury trouble, there could be a 10-year span where he has like over 100 more innings than any other guy, and that'll provide value.
Just going into the Cy Young conversation, like you mentioned, like winning the Cy Young because of your workload, like Zach Wheeler would have been that guy last year, but it literally took a generational FIP season from Corbin Burns, like legitimately a once in a lifetime type of FIP season from Corbin Burns, for him to not win with a much larger workload.
Yes. Yeah. And that was like when I was considering who I would vote for. Yeah, Zach Wheeler's workload, I considered greatly, and I think like Burns barely edged him out, and Burns had a 1.63 FIP. So yeah, it obviously took a lot to make up for like the 47 inning difference or so. And yeah, I think if Sandy Alcantara continues this, we could have that conversation with his season compared to like maybe like Carlos Rodon this year, who has a 2.23 FIP this year. So we could see that consistently where, because of his workload, he's a Cy Young finalist a lot, and that for a decade would be that would put him on a Hall of Fame track for sure.
No doubt. But I mean, could have put him on a best pitcher named Sandy ever track?
I don't know. It's hard because when you're like talking Sandy, You can't bring up like his count statistics.
No,
Even
you
wins above
can't.
replacement.
They might be tied in innings pitched.
Yeah, that's funny. It would take a lot.
No, this is not like would it happen. It's could we be in a case where we're having the discussion?
Yeah, if Sandy wins multiple Cy Youngs, sure, I'll do that.
Okay.
So I mean, he could win one this year for sure.
I mean, at this point, it's his to lose. I know there's a whole lot of season left, and anything can happen at any given moment. But right now, that is his Cy Young Award to lose.
Yeah, and shout out to you because you're on track for that to be correct.
Yeah.
There were a lot of NL pitchers to choose from, and you chose Sandy.
Oh, that's true. I did do that.
Yeah. Before the season started.
Yes.
So yeah. So yeah, the interesting discussion. I love a random, like a nice random baseball question like that.
Yeah.
What's your kind of internal monologue on this?
I'd say, I mean, I think the probability that we're going to be actually having the discussion that Sandy Alcantara was better than Sandy Koufax is slim to none. Like it's going to take, I mean, he's 26 now, so if he does this for 10 years, he'd have to be leading the league at innings pitched at 36.
Yeah.
Which is very hard. I think this is, like I said, this is more of a question. Could there be an argument to be made? And I think it's possible. Like, I think that's definitely something we could be seeing by the year, 2032.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's, yeah.
Especially, I like I said, I think it really depends on what he does in comparison to the rest of the league because, I mean, Sandy Koufax was, throwing 300 innings. He led the league in inning pitched twice, and they were only in his last 2 years. But, it wasn't that outlandish to be throwing 335 and 2/3 innings in 1965.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
It is kind of outlandish to be throwing 240 innings today. And it's probably going to get even more obscure in the coming years.
Oh yeah, exactly. With yeah, I mean there's an abundance of pitchers who throw 97 regularly who are just random guys pitching in relief in the 6th inning. You didn't have that in 1962. Or 1965 and 1966 when Sandy Koufax was in his final years. But yeah, so yeah, that's what makes it harder for pitchers to throw 230 innings in this day and age. Yeah, it's an interesting topic for sure. But yeah, multiple Cy Youngs from Sandy Alcantara in the next 10 years. And still getting Cy Young votes in the other years he's not winning the Cy Young. Sure, we could have that conversation. I'm not opposed to it.
Has he ever gotten Cy Young votes before?
That's a good question.
He is not. He did lead in losses, so that is a big issue. He has a 29-37 win-loss record this year, or not this year, but in his career.
Yeah,
so,
he has 56 decisions
that's kind of a problem.
this year. Or no, 66.
Yeah, in 17 starts.
In 17 starts, he has 66 decisions.
No, he's it's funny because he was 6-14 in 2019. He was 9-15 last year, with over 4 strikeouts per walk and less than 1 home run per 9.
Yeah, if you needed to know about that Miami offense, there you go.
Yep. He is 9-3 this year, though.
Yeah, he should be.
I would hope. He has a 1.82 ERA.
That reminds me of
runs per 9.
Remember that conversation we had last year of like, oh, at least Jacob DeGrom's 6-2 this year, and then we remembered, he's
actually that's the worst you could. Yeah,
yeah,
that was about the worst he could be.
Yeah, he had a 0.56 ERA, and he still
somehow
lost
had 2
games.
losses. Yeah. That was tough.
Yeah, that was a funny moment.
It's hard to mess that one up if you're the Mets, and they kind of did a little bit.
Yeah, we determined that like some stat on like he had tied for the worst winning percentage in an eight decision span with that low of an ERA or something like that.
Makes sense.
It makes
it's probably hard to factor in like relievers too, though.
True, yeah.
It's like relievers could easily have those kinds of stretches.
I
guess if it's an 8 decision stretch, then yeah.
I think I might have included innings pitched or something like that.
That's probably fair. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's.
I might go back and re-listen to that episode. That episode's probably in like the 120s.
It's literally titled 6-2, the worst you could do.
Oh yeah.
So it'll be easy to find.
Yeah, go to Above Replacement Radio episode whatever 6-2, the worst you could do.
It was probably around like May or June.
Yeah, for sure. But definitely before he got injured.
Yes.
All right. So now for players to highlight, we will get into our Friday, July 8th, 2022 edition of How About That? What do you got for us today?
So last episode, we both went with Isaac Paredes, and you mentioned there was someone on the leaderboards you assumed I would do because, I have some close relations with him.
Yep.
And I texted you yesterday saying I think I found out who it was.
Okay.
And if it's not Josh Bell, then I don't know who you were thinking of.
Yeah, it's Josh Bell.
Yeah, 100%. I wrote 1,600 words about him over the winter about how he hits too many ground balls. And this year, or not in this year, but since June 8th, he's slashing 351, 449, 691 for an 1140 OPS and 205 weighted runs created plus. Over that span, all of those lead except for his slugging in the National League. Rhys Hoskins has him by 3 points in slugging. Before this span, his ground ball rate on the season was 49.4%, and in the span, it is down to just 43.9%. That is a pretty significant decrease. And where that decrease has gone is to better places, better pastures. Additionally, his combined line drive and fly ball rates have risen by 9.9% during that span. And when he hits line drives and fly balls, he is batting .643 with a 1429 slugging percentage. That batting average ranks 4th, and the slugging percentage ranks 8th among the 213 hitters with at least 50 batted balls since June 8th. And he also started out the season struggling against off-speed pitches. He was hitting just .264 against them with a .377 slugging. And now in the span, he is hitting .440 with an .800 slugging on off-speed pitches. And that is also on the most batted balls against off-speed pitches in the league over that time. So that means that pitchers still haven't adjusted.
Yeah. Josh Bell. How about that? By the way, free agent after this year, he should definitely be on the trade market. The Nationals.
It would be, yeah, he's definitely going to be. Like, I will praise Mike Rizzo a lot. I think he's one of the better GMs in the sport. I know that, his team has been one of the worst in the majors since 2020, but if you think about it, DC is a big market, but it's not a big market, right? It's not New York, it's not Chicago, LA.
Yeah.
Like it's
second tier.
It's a second tier market, but this is the first time since the early 2010s that the Nationals have been bad. Like since 2012, they've been 500 every year up until 2019, obviously, when they won the World Series.
Yeah. So yeah,
and,
time to sell off some pieces. And
exactly, like it's just been a rough patch. They had it's tough to develop when you have a later pick every single year. And unfortunately, some of their prospects just haven't panned out when you look at like Carter Kieboom, most specifically Victor Robles.
Yeah.
Guys that just haven't really figured it out at the major league level quite yet. But, they do have Juan Soto, and that's worked out quite a bit.
Yeah. And then, of course, they invested heavily in Patrick Corbin and Steven Strasburg. They've been.
To be fair, Corbin did win them a World Series.
Yeah, for sure. But like it's
that is a very when that contract is said and done, it'll have a very complicated legacy.
Yeah, for sure.
The Strasburg deal, like, I saw a tweet where it was like Mike Rizzo having to pick between re-signing Anthony Rendon and Steven Strasburg is like playing Russian roulette, but there's 100% chance you're getting shot.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you had to do one of them, and both ended up flopping miserably.
Yeah. Oddly enough, like I didn't expect that. There was no sign that was going to be that was really going to be bad. Like,
especially
at least
with
in the early
Rendon.
years. Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Rendon seemed to be getting better with age. He reminded me a lot of like Adrian Beltre.
Right, yeah. And he was like 30 going into that contract.
Injuries have just caught up to him with the Angels. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like and Strasburg had consistently been like a low 3s ERA guy, and
he
was
did
able
have
to strike out a lot of guys.
Some injury history, but it had been sort of removed.
Yeah, he had that Tommy John surgery early in his career, and maybe a little bit like in the 2016, 17 or some, around that time. But yeah. I mean, I can't blame him for signing Strasburg and Corbin. Maybe a little bit Corbin, but the Corbin one, he won Game 7 of the World Series. But yeah, Josh Bell, he's gonna be one of the more valuable bats on the market. All right, my how about that is let me introduce him. My how about that, he actually kind of had a similar start to his season last year, except he's doing better peripherally right now. And we, there's this team is having some valuable pitchers probably coming back to the rotation. One has already come back. One is probably going to come back in the next month. But this guy particularly has been kind of carrying the rotation a little bit in their absences, and that is Taijuan Walker, who in his last 5 starts has a 2.25 ERA, 2.02 FIP, and a 23.8% strikeout minus walk rate in 32 innings pitched. Also in the span, he ranks 5th in FWAR and 5th in FIP out of 72 qualifiers. We mentioned that 2.02 FIP. That's very, very good. Also, he's allowed only 1 home run in this span, and his ground ball rate has gone from 46.8% before the span to 56.4% in this span. It's a very, very, very good ground ball rate. Very good change there. Also, his barrel rate has gone from 7.8% to 3.8% in this span. And a big change that Taijuan Walker made from last year to this year is the usage of his splitter. His splitter usage has gone from 14.2% last year to 28.7% this year. And his splitter is working very well this year. In his last 5 starts, particularly, hitters are slugging 128 off that splitter. And that's maybe a reason to have a little more hope for Taijuan Walker this year, where maybe he doesn't crash the same way he did in the second half of last year. He's made some adjustments and working out greatly for him. So Taijuan Walker. How about that? All right, so that brings us from the highs to the lows. We're talking players and subjects who've been underperforming for our Friday, July 8th, 2022 edition of
Slightly Alarming.
Who do you got for us today?
I actually have a full season sample for this Slightly Alarming.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm looking at Herman Marquez, who just has not had it this season. He has a 5.90 ERA and a 5.08 FIP. And last year, he had reverse splits. He had a 3.67 ERA at home, but this year it's up to 7.17 at Coors Field. That is the highest of any qualified starter at home by nearly 2 runs. And much of the concern for him this year has come on his 4-seam fastball, which was primarily his most used pitch. He threw it 45% of the time last year. He's only throwing it 30% of the time this year. And there's good reason to see why, because the launch angle has risen by 7 degrees. It's gone from 3 to 10 degrees. Hitters are batting 374 against it this year with a 636 slugging. And also, most concerningly, he has not been deceptive at all. It is the second lowest whiff rate, which is at 7.8%, and the second worst put away percent at 5% among the 193 pitchers that have had at least 100 plate appearances against. He's just not getting, swings and misses at all. And when he's getting hit, it's getting hit loud. He has one effective pitch this year, which has been his curveball, which is the fourth most used pitch of his at 20.1%. All 4 of the others have a slugging percentage above 545. And there is a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel because he has started throwing his sinker a bit more in the last month or so. It's still definitely a work in progress because, like I said, it's one of the pitchers that has a 545 slugging against or higher. But, he's working on it. I think this adjustment period for Marquez is going to be one where we see how much he has left in him, which is weird because he's probably the best pitcher in that franchise's history.
Yeah, can definitely be argued that way. German Marquez.
Slightly alarming.
My slightly alarming is coming from a team that I guess, over the last month has been slightly alarming. I'm talking about Jared Walsh, who has been abysmal in his last 12 games. In his last 12 games, he's hitting 140 with a 299 OPS and a negative 21 weighted runs created plus. In this span, out of 177 qualifiers, his average ranks 6th worst. His OBP ranks worst. His slugging percentage is the worst. OPS is the worst. Weighted runs created plus is the worst. And he has the worst F4 in this 12-game span. Been really rough for him. In this 12-game span, he has 1 walk and 0 extra base hits. His strikeout rate is 36.4%, which is especially bad considering he has 1 walk in the span, which is a 2.3% rate. So, if there was a pitcher with his strikeout minus walk rate, it would be absurd. It would be crazy. But his strikeout rate is 36.4%, which is 4th highest out of those 177 qualifiers. Also, when he hits the ball, it's not great. Before the span, his average exit velocity was 91.7 miles per hour, and his hard hit rate was 46%. But in this span, his average exit velocity is 85.1 miles per hour, and his hard hit rate is 30%. Also, his average exit velocity in this span ranked 16th lowest out of 208 players with 25 plus batted balls in this 12-game span. And along with that, his ground ball rate has gone from 45.1% to 55.6% in this span. So, Jared Walsh, he's a power hitter. He's, almost had, I think he almost had 30 home runs last year, or he had 30 home runs, somewhere around there. So him hitting the ball softer and on the ground, not a good sign. So nothing's working for him. He's got a negative 21 weighted runs created plus in a 12-game span. For those unaware, the average weighted runs created plus is 100. So he's 121% worse than average in this 12-game span. Having a rough one. Jared Walsh.
Slightly alarming.
Yeah, I mean, there was always a slightly alarming with him just on his ability to hit lefties or lack thereof. I believe he had like a sub 600 OPS against them last season.
Yes.
And over the offseason, I believe there was talk of platooning him. But at this point, I mean, how short is that leash?
Yeah. I mean, I think his season overall in his season overall OPS plus is like still over 100, but yeah, I mean
103 in a season with low offense.
Yeah. And he's not like a defensive star either.
No.
So, but Angels don't have too many other options. So I think that's part of the reason why he, sticks around.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. that
Sub
Yeah,
300 OBP. That's bad.
yeah, he's having a rough 12 game stretch. And yeah, only you mentioned the OBP, only one walk in his last 12 games. And that walk was yesterday, so he went 11 games without a walk. So yeah, that does it for players to highlight. We'll get into some series to watch. We'll get into a preview of the weekend ahead. I will get into series to watch. Daniel will get into the day-by-day pitching matchups. Series to watch. We have the rivalry. It's the Red Sox, it's the Yankees, it's at Fenway Park, the oldest ballpark in the world. They played each other in the first game in that ballpark in April of 1912 when they were the Highlanders, and the Red Sox had Babe Ruth, and they sold him to the Yankees so that Harry Frazee could fund his play, and it flopped. Do you guys remember that? That's a fun story. They're playing. That's a 4-game series. The Yankees beat them 6-5 last night. Division implications. I don't know. Yankees are winning the AL East. I don't know what to say. So, it's just, can the Yankees keep the Red Sox from a wild card spot? I don't know. Maybe that's the storyline. And then I don't know. There's series to watch. I'm looking right now. I'm searching.
There's not a ton.
Not a whole lot. Padres Giants. That should be a good one. Like, the Giants need to get back on track, and it might be kind of hard when they're at Petco Park. And then
Mariners Blue Jays, I suppose, is interesting.
Actually, yeah, that's an interesting one because, yeah, Blue Jays are underperforming. They should be doing better. Mariners are surging. We kind of prefaced that a little bit last episode, but the Mariners are surging. They've
I believe they're at 500 now.
They're at 500 after being, you said 10 games below, not that long ago.
They were left for dead.
Yeah, so Mariners, Blue Jays, I would expect the Mariners to do well in that series considering the trends of those two teams. And then I guess Cardinals, Phillies, what are they, Sunday night again?
No, it's Red Sox, Yankees.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
We do have I'll get into that. We do tonight. Is it tonight? Yeah, tonight for matchups, we got a rematch of Zach Wheeler versus Adam Wainwright. That was a Sunday night matchup last week.
Yeah. That's all the series I have to watch. You can get into the day-by-day matchups.
Yeah, so on Friday, which is tonight, Pablo Lopez and Chris Bassett will face each other in Marlins Mets at Citi Field. Nestor Cortez will face the Red Sox tonight for the Yankees. Charlie Morton will be facing the Nationals for the Braves at Truist. This is a cool matchup. We got Sonny Gray versus John Gray in Twins Rangers.
We love that.
Yeah, we do. A couple of guys on new teams, even though the season's 3 months old. We got Brady Singer facing the Guardians for the Royals at Kauffman against Aaron Savali. Tarvik Skubal versus Lucas Giolito. That's an interesting matchup in Tigers White Sox at Guaranteed Rate Field. Aaron Ashby will be facing the Pirates for the Brewers. He has like a really bad, I think he's like an 8 ERA in his last 4 starts, but it's mostly based on misfortune. So that's interesting to me. Chad Kuhl and Zach Allen will face each other in Rockies Diamondbacks. And Jose Urquidy will face the A's tonight for the Astros. Blake Snell will face the Giants tonight for the Padres. Keegan Thompson and Tyler Anderson are facing each other in Cubs Dodgers at Dodger Stadium. And matchup of the night comes from the much anticipated matchup of Rays Reds from Great American Ballpark. It'll be Shane McClanahan versus Luis Castillo.
Yeah, I saw that on the docket, and I was like, I mean, the team matchups, like, who cares? But I mean, that is a great pitching matchup.
Yeah, for sure.
It's definitely going to be 1-0 Rays.
Yeah, on a home run too.
Yeah.
On Saturday, we have Kyle Gibson facing the Cardinals for the Phillies in St. Louis. Patrick Sandoval versus Dean Creamer in Angels Orioles. Creamer's been having a very ERA guided season, I guess is the nice way to put it. Another guy who's having an ERA guided season, Devin Smeltzer, will be facing Martin Perez in Twins Rangers. Framber Valdez will be facing the A's for the Astros in the Coliseum. Kyle Freeland versus Madison Bumgarner will be facing each other in a 2017 Classic. I guess is the best way to put it. Tristan McKenzie, who pitched magnificently for the Guardians, will be facing the Royals at Kauffman Saturday. He pitched against the Yankees Sunday through 7 one-hit innings, I believe. Hunter Green will be facing the Rays for the Reds on Saturday. Patrick Corbin versus Kyle Wright in Nats Braves. Braxton Garrett, who pitched well last time out on July 4th, will be facing Carlos Carrasco. And Zach Thompson will be facing Brandon Woodruff. I believe that'll be Thompson's return from the IL on Saturday in Pirates Brewers. That's matchup of the night, so I'll save that. Clayton Kershaw will be facing the Cubs at Dodger Stadium. There's a lot of talk over if he should be an all-star or not, which is interesting. And matchup of the night comes from Giants Padres. That'll be Carlos Rodon versus Yu Darvish.
All right, sounds great.
Yes, and on Sunday, it will be Ian Anderson facing the Braves, or facing the Nationals for the Braves at Truist Park. Shane Baz and Nick Lodolo will face each other in Rays Reds. That's an intriguing matchup. Zach Greinke and different ages with the same name, but different spellings will be facing each other. Lot to take in there. Michael Kopech will be facing the Tigers for the White Sox at guaranteed rate. He's been kind of struggling a little bit lately. Jose Quintana versus Eric Lauer in the battle of lefties that should not be this good. Andre Palante will be facing the Phillies for the Cardinals. He's an interesting guy. Dylan Bundy versus Dane Dunning will be facing each other in Twins Rangers. Jake Odorizzi, slightly alarming, will be facing the Diamondbacks in Chase Field. Julio Urias will be facing the Cubs for the Dodgers. Alex Wood and Mackenzie Gore will be facing each other. Giants Padres. Jameson Taillon and Nick Pivetta will face each other in Sunday Night Baseball in Yankees Red Sox. And matchup of the day comes from Marlins Mets. It is Sandy Alcantara versus Taijuan Walker, two pitchers that got a lot of attention in this show.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Both very much trending in the right direction. So yeah, that should do it for this installment of Above Replacement Radio. First off, I guess if you enjoy us talking about baseball, go listen to us on the NECBL podcast. We're interning there. We're doing a podcast for the NECBL. So give it a nice rating if you're listening, and give it some listens to let the bosses know we getting a little traction with that podcast. It's a little more difficult to do because we don't have the vast knowledge that we have on the MLB. So but yeah, it's
we also don't have quite the resources.
Yeah. No, well, I don't know. They're a little inside info. They're giving us more TrackMan data, which is fun.
Yeah. I mean, we got the resources, but not these ones. We don't. Unfortunately, there's not an NECBL savant that is quite as intricate as MLB's, but that's all right. We're making do with what we have.
Yeah. Also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and want to watch the conversation as it happens, or watch some shorter clips, go to the YouTube channel. It is called Above Replacement Radio. Also, if you want to follow us on social media, follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta, and follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Kern, and follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio. We hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you on next Tuesday, where we will be talking all the happenings in Major League Baseball once again. See you then.
This conversation is over.